Hi there, everybody. Good afternoon if you're in Europe. Good morning if you're in the Americas. Good evening if you're in Asia Pacific. And if you're listening to a recording, whatever time of the day it is, whatever time zone you're in, thanks very much for listening in. My name is Martin Cowan. I'm contributing editor for tnooz, and I'll be moderating this afternoon's workshop, which we've brought to you in association with TripTease. The subject under discussion, as you can see, live chat, a hotelier's guide, and we've got Charlie Osmond, who's Chief Tease of TripTease. He's going to be talking you through best practices around live chat for hoteliers. And without preempting what he's about to say, live chat is increasingly about revenue as well as customer service. So before I hand you over to Charlie, just a couple of housekeeping points. If you're familiar with GoToWebinar or not, on the right-hand side of the screen there's a box that says questions, which is where you can key in any questions you'd like to ask Charlie. Feel free to chime in real time during the presentation. Anything relevant comes up, I'll ask then, but we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. And also, I've been asked to point out that this webinar is being recorded. So you'll get an email from GoToWebinar after it's finished with a link through to the recording where you can watch it at your leisure. If you can't wait, there's also in the handouts box on the right hand side, you can also click on that link to download the slides for future reference. Okay, that's it from me for now. Let me just hand you over to Charlie. Charlie, the virtual floor is yours.
Hello, just checking you can see me. All good, and slides showing. Okay, hi, my name is Charlie Osmond, as you heard. I'm the Chief Tease at TripTease. So I want to start by telling you about a recent house move I made. Just moved apartment in New York City, and in the first week, my neighbours, I think this is something that Americans do, which us British people wouldn't do. Our neighbours popped around to say hello, to introduce themselves, and also to bring us some cookies, which was very nice. And as I say, quite surprising. And so I told my wife, who wasn't there at the time, I told her that our neighbour came round, gave us some cookies. I recited the names of their children, and she said, was there anything else they said? I said, oh yeah, well, the neighbour also told me which is the best dry cleaner around here. But I don't really trust his judgment on that. And she said, what do you mean? That sounds like an excellent tip. You've got to tell me which is the right dry cleaner to use. And if you haven't lived in New York City, it's worth bearing in mind there are like 4 or 5 dry cleaners on every single block. And I said, but what's the point in going for the dry cleaner? It's not like the neighbour has tried 8 different dry cleaners within a square mile, tested them, done an A/B test with his shirts, and found out which one actually is the best dry cleaner. He's just gone into one, he's used it, he's been happy, and that's all he's telling us. My wife at that point called me a curmudgeon and still asked for the name of it. But I guess the point I wanted to make is that people don't remember what it is you do. They remember how it is you make them feel. And what you do, how you make people feel is more important than what you do. And so one of the reasons why we're talking about live chat today is because I think that that opening that communication and that conversation with guests when they're pre-booking, pre-stay, pre-anything, is a great way to start the hospitality relationship and bring out an opportunity really to make people feel good. And when I think about the ways in which hotels can compete and drive direct bookings in the future, the opportunity that live chat presents is a really great one because it allows you to get people to feel emotive, not only about the property, which photos can do, but about your service. It's a real opportunity to bring your service to the fore. Okay, so there's a little intro. I'm going to be talking today about, I guess, how we think about live chat in the hotel marketplace at the moment, what's going on, what some different hotels are doing, different approaches that we see out there, and then give you 4 or 5 very specific take-homes, suggestions, hopefully that will be useful if you are currently using messaging or if it's something that you are considering. I'd better start though with a very brief little snippet on TripTease. So TripTease is a company that helps hotels increase direct bookings. Everything we do is focused on converting guests who've arrived on a hotel website. In fact, we started the business based on the insight that most OTA bookers are taking the time to go and look at a hotel website. They're on the hotel site, they're looking at rooms, they're even looking at the price, but then they often leave assuming the price is going to be cheaper on a different channel and that they want to check the OTA before booking. And so everything we do is about converting guests whilst they're on the hotel website. So we're tracking guest behavior and showing them dynamic, personalized messages One example of that, the first product we brought out is Price Check. So we're comparing prices on OTAs and then showing that price comparison on the hotel website, because it's the single thing that can have the biggest impact on converting OTA bookers and getting them to book direct. Anyway, one of those and one of the evolutions of the product for us, one of the platform, has been introducing live chat and messaging on the hotel website as an opportunity to engage. And the reason for that is, as I say, like everything we do, I spend my whole day, every day and every weekend thinking about how can we do more to help hotels drive direct. And when we think about the opportunities in 2018, 2019 for hotels, and in terms of driving more direct, we think the opportunity is around bringing the hospitality experience to the hotel website. You know, there's a weapon that hotels have in their arsenal that OTAs don't, frankly, and that is better understanding and knowledge about the property and about the local area. But also, it's that hospitality. It's that little je ne sais quoi, that's something that makes people think, I want to work in the hotel industry, and that desire to serve guests. If you can bring that forwards, if you can make it something that people experience, not when they walk in the front door, but when they walk, you know, onto your website, then I think that's an opportunity to start to build a relationship. And when you've started to build a relationship, you're far more likely to get a direct booking and far more likely to drive a great stay and loyal behavior. So that's why we think live chat presents a specific opportunity for hotels, but also it's worth remembering, sorry, that this is just a huge, extraordinary shift in consumer behavior we're witnessing. In the last few years, the growth in messaging usage on mobile phones has massively outstripped social media usage. You know, I remember 10 years ago we were talking about how rapidly social has grown, and yet messaging has gone at a far faster pace. Mobile phones are being used for messaging more than anything else. They're certainly not being used for telephone calls with anything like the same volume. People find that asynchronous, dip in, dip out of conversations really, really useful. And when I say people, I mean that's my 10-year-old daughter who messages me, and it's my mother. It's all generations, because it's just a really useful way to convey information and to ask questions. So this is not something that's going away, right? This is not a fad. This is a more useful way for people to communicate, and it's here. And as a result, people are expecting to interact with businesses more and more. One example in the travel industry is Hotel Tonight. Hotel Tonight have a human messaging service on the app that they've been experimenting with for a couple of years now. They offer it on a certain select group of hotels. So it's the Hotel Tonight reps are actually delivering the concierge service. They're not asking the hoteliers to do it. But what they find is when they have a hotel where somebody is interacting with a guest, the conversion rate for that hotel increases by 30%. They also find that people who've interacted with the concierge, the ACEs concierge as they call them, are 34% more likely to book again within the next 90 days. And one of the reasons I think success is worth bearing in mind is that they respond really fast, right? They have a team, they've hired the team, and they've trained them to work 24/7 to deliver a great concierge experience. It's having a great impact in driving conversion, but it's also delivering a much better guest experience. So what are the channels that hotels are using or should be thinking about? I mean, there are many, and it's constantly changing, evolving, and it's different for every country. So, for example, Facebook Messenger is one channel which quite a few companies who are building on-property messaging capability, they're focused around Facebook Messenger because it delivers a very rich media experience, and because a lot of people are on Facebook. And also because you can't yet use WhatsApp for business very easily. But I was recently at an event in Asia, and I met a woman who started a really fast-growing company in Japan that does hotel concierge service for guests who speak English who are visiting Japan. Particularly great opportunity for those kind of guests, because in Japan, English isn't so widely spoken as in many other countries people visit. And so if you have a question about a hotel, or for a hotel concierge, sometimes they may not even speak English. So she started with Facebook Messenger, and she thought that that was what people would want to use. And in fact, she found SMS to be a far better platform for delivering a messaging capability for Japanese hotels. So they've scrapped Facebook Messenger and they've just gone SMS. I don't think at this stage you can say there's a one-size-fits-all. I suspect what's going to happen is people want to be able to message in multiple different channels, and the tools that will be available will allow that. But it is worth mentioning, you know, if she hadn't, for example, said, I'm going to focus on SMS, then her service for SMS wouldn't be as good, and equally the people who are focusing on Facebook, by doing that, their service is going to get better quicker. So that's worth bearing in mind. And then the one that I guess perhaps might surprise you on this page is Booking.com, because of course Booking.com, and now if you book, will give you the ability as a guest to message the hotel. And that's an interesting one because it's demanding the hotelier, obviously, to go to Booking.com's platform in order to message over it. And I suspect that that's the kind of channel which we will see evolve in the next couple of years, and it will be possible for a hotelier to have one platform, one agent portal, where they can speak on multiple different channels at once. And of course, the channel that we're most focused on is the website, because this is where people are coming when they're making a decision to buy. They're making a decision to stay at your property, and they have questions, and we want to support them there. So that's another key channel. Hopefully all good. If you have any questions, they may get read out on the way, but otherwise I will just continue to talk. So another reason why messaging is really important is because some of the really big companies that basically dominate our internet and mobile experiences are doing. One example is Apple. So Apple have announced that Apple Business Chat is going to be brought out. So whatever your iOS device is, in various different places, whether you're searching on a map for a company name, whether you're searching in Safari for a company name, as well as being presented, here's the phone, you know, click this to call this company. You will also be presented, click this to message with this company. So the expectation of consumers that they can message and interact through messaging is only going to increase, because there's a lot of other players who are pushing that as a capability for businesses. And a final example of that is Bing, who actually deliver a bot. So you can program a bot to respond when somebody has done a Bing search for your property, and that bot can respond for you. I'm not suggesting that all hoteliers should run out immediately and go programming those bots. Probably better to wait and see what Google does in response, which we're expecting relatively soon. The point I'm trying to make is that this is a new way that people want to communicate, and they want to communicate with businesses. And if you ask yourself, you know, what's the ROI on this communication? It's a bit like saying, what's the ROI on buying a telephone? If people want to speak to you on the telephone, you need to buy a telephone. The ROI is always a very important question, and I'm a fan of it. But it's worth understanding this is a communication method, and you're going to have to be there to be able to respond to people when they've got questions, because the expectations have changed. Okay, so when are people messaging? Well, people have very different queries and needs, and there are opportunities for hotels at different stages in the guest journey. So in the research and booking phase, people are on a hotel website, they're looking at the bedroom, and they're thinking, I don't understand, this bedroom name is different from what I saw on Expedia, but Expedia said I could put 3 people in there, and the hotel website seems to say 2. I've got a question, can I add a crib? Whatever the question might be, there's obviously a need to respond, and that reduces anxiety before making a booking. It also gives you an opportunity, importantly, to initiate a relationship. Pre-stay, obviously there are hotel apps out there and various other ways to contact guests before they stay. It might be that you're using messaging to upsell, or to tell someone when their room is ready. On property, and this is an area where we're seeing a lot of messaging happening, it's an alternative to picking up the house phone and dialing to see, you know, can I book a room in the restaurant? I know I was just away this weekend, and there were 2 or 3 times during the stay where it went through my mind, I wish I could just send a message right now about this to the hotel, and I had to walk over, pick up the phone, work out which button it was for reception because I couldn't work it out, and then wait for someone who went off and did something, and I had to stand by the phone waiting for them to call me back. And it really was rather frustrating. I'd have preferred to be outside on the beach. And then finally, post-stay, obviously there's an opportunity to use messaging to check that there haven't been any issues that guests have had, so make sure you can deal with those before they might pop up on TripAdvisor, and also to get any feedback. So there's basically, my point was, there are a number of different channels, there are a number of different points in the guest journey that you need to think about what's the right way to use messaging. Okay, and you can't really talk about, or I can't talk about messaging without mentioning bots. Ever since, I think this, you know, Gary Kasparov got beaten by Deep Blue, we've been seeing machines slowly taking over the world, and it feels like that is speeding up. In fact, some people think in quite a scary way. I love this photo because there are people in the audience who are obviously delighted that the machine has won, and there are people in the audience who obviously think it's a disaster that machines have beaten the best chess player in the world. But this was kind of the rise, where we saw the rise of machines beginning. And we're seeing a lot of bots already out there. Expedia bot, this was something we just tested the other day. It can add some value and it can be helpful, but at the same time it's not quite at prime time. It has a challenge. It was asking where are you coming from, and just would not recognize the location, however many times it tried. So the capabilities of computers are extraordinary. The capabilities of bots are improving every day, but at the moment they're still not quite there yet. And going back to the chess analogy, it's interesting. The world's best chess player is not a person, and nor is the world's best chess player a machine. In fact, it's a centaur system. So you can go to chess tournaments, which are centaur chess tournaments, where you play part human, supported by a machine. And in fact, it's the combination, the coordination between machine and human that drives the very best chess player in the world. And also, we think that's the same when it comes to delivering live chat. It's actually combining both the human and the machine, and using the best parts of both that can deliver the greatest service. And maybe in 3 to 5 years that won't be true. Perhaps the artificial intelligence will be good enough to fool us every time. But I think for the next 3 to 5 years, it's about combining the two to really deliver the best possible service. And there, just lastly on that, a quick way, there are a couple of different ways you can consider that. So it can be that you have a guest makes a request, and the bot is dealing with 90% of the conversation, and the human agent is there in the background when there's a difficult or new question, or something that the bot appears to have a challenge with. And then a different way to do it is that guest make a request, and the bot is suggesting what the best response is, and the human can verify, yep, send that to the guest or not. So there are different ways in which people are using bots to support humans, but I think at this stage it's certainly the best way to begin. Whew, okay. Oh, and then a little example of that from Front Desk, which is our platform which delivers live chat on hotel websites. So this is what the agent sees in the background. They're writing the response. Hello, welcome to the lodge. The guests ask some questions, and what you see here at the bottom is obviously a box where the agent can just respond, but above that, 3 suggestions, and the suggestions are quick responses, so the agent doesn't need to take the time to write out the full answer to something they've been asked 5 times before. It's automatically there. So it's just about making the agent much more productive. I mean, the agent obviously can alter or tweak that response, but it's there and it makes things more efficient. And there are 2 kind of key categories that falls into at first: custom messages that the agent might pre-program, and FAQs, things that are frequently asked by guests that you just want to be able to immediately respond to if you're an agent. Okay, so that's kind of most of the background in sort of live chat and scene setting, which I thought would be hopefully useful as a starting point. The last thing I want to go through are a few tips, a few tricks, things that we found useful as we've helped support hotels with live chat with conversations on their website. Okay, best practices. And you may have seen some of these in the report that we just delivered. So the first one is response times. In fact, this has been quite eye-opening for us. The response times, and you've got to measure these in seconds, right? You've really got to get back to people quickly. In other industries where they've been managing live chat for a while and they've seen the impact and they know how well it works, their response times are very often under a minute. These are industry benchmarks here: games and gambling, 37 seconds, finance is at 1 minute, and travel is, I'm embarrassed to say, 1 minute 53 seconds. And that really matters, because if someone is on your website and they ask you a question, this is not like if they are on WhatsApp and they send you a question. If you know, my mother sends me a question on WhatsApp, she knows she'll get an answer by the end of the day. But if someone's on your website, they've got the browser open, and on one of the tabs, they ask you a question. If you don't respond in, I mean, we often think in 30 to 55 seconds, then often they'll close the tab and they'll leave. And they'll never actually see your response. If you take 2 minutes to respond to people, something like 75% of guests will never see the response. So responding fast really matters.
Right, sorry, Charlie, can I interrupt belatedly? There's been a few questions around response times that have come through. Just wondering if there's almost like an opportunity cost in terms of having a live chat function that you don't live chat back to, and whether there is an argument that if you can't manage a live chat response within 2 minutes, you shouldn't really have one. I'm just wondering, is that sort of anecdotal or any evidence around that you've seen?
So I think if that were the case, so if you were only going to be responding to people after 4 minutes and you weren't giving them the correct like warning and expectations around response times, then I agree. I think it's a bad experience. We actually, in fact, I can show you on the next slide, we still see that guests who don't get responded to still have much higher conversion rates than the average guest, but there's a bunch of stuff hidden in that. So I mean, what we've generally found is that if you give people the right expectation about response times, then in fact you still have an opportunity to respond to them. And one example of that is if someone asks a question and you know your response time, maybe it's at night. So you either can make the decision at night to say, well, if you leave your email address, I'm afraid it's nighttime at our hotel. If you leave your email address, we respond to you in the morning. And we find that's very effective, and a lot of people will leave, will leave their contact details, and so you've still got an opportunity to follow up. You're kind of collecting leads while you sleep. And then the other one is you can just say at times where you know as a property that you won't respond quickly, you actually just turn it off and you don't even allow the capability. So you only provide the capability when you know you can deliver. And there are many other ways. I mean, some hotels that we work with, they can't respond. So in fact, we have a team that will respond on behalf of the hotels at first, and 84% of queries that we get asked are kind of relatively simple ones that we can respond quite easily on behalf of the hotel. And if it's a difficult one, we'll then say to the guest, we're going to have to check and get back to you. So I think, as with most things, it's about managing expectations.
Okay, and there's another question, similar area, in terms of if the live chat function doesn't respond accurately or can't answer the query that's been put to them, is that a negative as well? And what can hotels do about that, apart from, as you say, manage the expectations? I'm sorry, I don't know what time the cinema closes, I'll get back to you. Is that the way to do it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, do I think that guests get a better experience if they are told incorrect information? No, I don't. If the only option you have is to give people incorrect information, then you probably shouldn't be doing this. If, however, you can be reasonably sure that you'll get people the right information, or as you say, you can manage expectations, say, well, I'm not sure, I'd be making a guess about whatever the question happens to be, but I'll get back to you, then you're building up the opportunity to have like an interaction and more of a relationship. But yeah, certainly I would not advise hotels turning on live chat and responding inaccurately. That's not the goal. Yeah, I'm sure sometimes that will happen, but it'll be a minority of instances, I think, for most people. And the fact that people are there and they've got questions, if you can answer 90% of questions accurately and well and in a timely way, then you are giving people a much better experience. And guests who are on your site who are thinking, I'm thinking about staying in this hotel, I wonder how well they're going to look after me. They get that, they actually get a feeling of that, and they can sense it straight away.
Okay, so it's that managing expectations part of the piece is important then?
I think essential, yes. Okay, cool. So in fact, there are a few questions there about responses, and so I can show you a little bit from some of the research, from some of the data that we've got from managing chat alongside our hotels or watching hotels do it. So if you take the standard conversion rate from a hotel website at about 2%, people who don't message, who don't interact with live chat that's on a hotel website, convert at about 2%. What we find is that if a guest interacts and sends a message to the hotel, but they don't get a response, they don't see the response, their conversion rate is higher. The conversion rate is about 6%. Now, just to be really clear, it is not that by dint of interacting with the hotel, even though I didn't get a response back, it's not because I asked a question my conversion rate went up. That's not what's happening. Or at least we don't believe so. I think what's happening is people who are highly engaged, who are more likely to book, are the ones who are asking the questions. Okay. So anyway, you see a higher conversion rate for people who are asking questions, and you see a yet higher one if people are getting a response. So what we tend to find is for most hotels, the immediate sort of uplift from that 6% is to like 8.5%, and then after training, we've seen it get as high as 13% conversion rates for people who have a question and get a response. Because ultimately they're generally asking a question. because they've got some anxiety, or they need to know something before they make the decision to book. And if, as I say, if you respond really well, then you're actually delivering some value, and people are more likely to book direct.
What sort of training would you recommend to get that conversion rate up?
Good question. I'm coming to that. But I mean, the first thing actually generally is to make sure that all of the FAQs are at hand, right? So it's really easy and quick to make sure you're responding accurately to people. And a second one would be actually, well, as I mentioned before, the best way to drive the conversion rate is to make sure that people see the response. The best way to make sure they see a response is to respond quickly. So speed is actually really vital. And what we found is that for example, if I was answering on behalf of a hotel and I didn't know the answer to the question, I would still respond quickly and say, thank you for the question, I don't know, I'm going to go and find out for you. Because the speed of response issue is gone, they will then more likely leave the tab open or give you an email address. But here's the key tip. Here's the real secret sauce, which is this is in a sense a sales conversation, and just like a sales conversation, we all know that going into a shop and someone who's just selling and pushing us the whole way and telling us why this is the right thing to buy, actually turns us off. Whereas as soon as you walk into a shop and they engage you and ask you questions, you're much more likely to feel they understand me, and you're much more likely to buy. So here's an example that we just pulled from one of the conversations we saw on our platform. So the guest says, perfect, please tell me about the location. I believe this is close to Old Town. And the agent comes back with, yes, it's very central. It's a lovely road. There are lots of nice old buildings. This is Edinburgh after all. But the real magic, the really key trick was when she says, where are you going to be coming from? Okay, so what we see often happens is that somebody asks a question and the hotel agent's immediate sense is, I better respond to that question. But if you were being human, and if that person was in front of you and they came up to your front desk and they asked you a question, you wouldn't just snap back the answer and then blank out and go quiet. You would be thinking, as a human does, oh, I wonder why they're asking, I wonder where they're going, let me see if I can engage them in conversation, ask how their stay is. And it's exactly the same in live chat. You want to ask open questions that just actually build rapport, build the relationship, and then create something much more interesting in the conversation. So you can see here the response back from the guest is, oh, great, I booked a room, we're traveling from the US, this is why we're coming, this is what we're aiming to do. So the key takeaway here is you want to, in live chat, not just respond, you want to create a conversation. And so thinking about how do we create flow in these conversations is something that we spend quite a bit of time on. I hope that helps answer one of the earlier questions too.
Yeah.
And for that reason, actually, so what we have in, I mentioned earlier, 2 of the kind of suggested answers that our bot gives agents, and the third one that we've added on is flow messages. So here are suggestions that you could now ask, given the conversation that's gone on, that would engage potentially the guest in a more open dialogue. Where are you coming from? I mean, actually, the number one question, the easiest one to just tell everyone to remember is, oh, why are you coming to London? Why are you coming to New York? Asking that open-ended question instantly helps you get more information about the guest and engage them in a more interesting conversation. Okay, manage expectations. We touched on this a bit briefly. So here are a couple of examples of doing that. If someone's asking you a question at night, and again, this is provided by most like chat software, most messaging software. For example, on the right-hand side, you can see here someone's asked a question, and the responses can take a little longer at this time of day. We can send the answer straight to your inbox, leave your email address right here. So yeah, managing expectations is really key. And then finally, being human. I mean, I've already mentioned sort of opening up, but this is one of the reasons why we've, in a sense, we're betting our company on live chat. We believe that messaging is the biggest opportunity for hotels to change the relationship they have with guests in the booking journey, and as a result, to win more bookings back to the direct channel. And so part of doing that is trying to be helpful and trying to be human. It's not being robotic and just like responding and with pat answers. It's trying to add flavor and color. So again, this is the Edinburgh guest asking about other places to go and stay, and the agent is saying, well, actually, you could also go and visit York, go to Betty's Tea Room. It's a special place to be. So making sure you're using this new communication channel in the way that it's really most powerful, which is being human and starting a conversation. And that is it. So a bit of an overview in terms of the way we think about messaging and live chat and why it's important, and then also a few, hopefully, specific takeaways for you to have a go with.